In this quick technique video, I'm going to show you how to do an increase by doing a yarn over or a yarn forward. Sometimes it's abbreviated one way or another in patterns. And I'm going to show you how to do that when you're doing a knit stitch and also when you're doing when you're purling and you need to do it during the purl stitch. So let's take a look. So when you're knitting, normally when you're knitting, your yarn is always to the back and you knit, right? When the pattern calls for a yarn over or a yarn forward, what that means is you're going to take the yarn and you're going to bring it forward, okay? And then the next stitch, if the next stitch is also a knit stitch, you're going to knit it with the yarn in the front. And watch what happens when you do that. You're going to insert to knit, and when you do that, you are now making an extra stitch. And so you've just made an extra stitch on your right needle by doing that yarn over or yarn forward. We'll see that one more time. I'm going to bring the yarn forward or yarn over and knit. So this is one way of increasing a stitch, but when you do this, note that you do get a hole in your work. So if you do want to add holes to your work, maybe you want to add a hole to be able to put a drawstring through it or some kind of a lace through it or something, then this is the kind of increase that you want to do. You want to do a decrease with a knit two together and then an increase with the yarn over, and you get a nice hole. You'll see these yarn over type instructions in patterns that make laces or lace type patterns. You'll see that quite a bit. In brioche, we do a bit of yarn over as well. So there's lots of patterns that use a yarn over or yarn forward type stitch to get that increase or to balance out the stitches. But that's how you do it with a knit stitch. Now I'm just going to purl a few stitches, and then I'll show you how to do a yarn over when you're at the purl part. So let's say your pattern, you're purling and your pattern now says to do a yarn over, and your next stitch is also a purl. Now when you're purling, your yarn is typically to the front, right? You're going to take that yarn and bring it all the way over and around the right needle, and you'll notice that that's how we have increased a stitch. And then you're going to purl the next stitch. So you've just increased a stitch. We'll see that one more time. To do a yarn over, take your yarn and bring it all the way around the right stitch, and then purl the next stitch. Okay, now let's say your next stitch was not a purl but was a knit. How would you do that? If that's the case, then you would keep your yarn in the front and then knit the next stitch, and watch what happens. You get the extra stitch. So depending on what your stitches are doing, your pattern will tell you to either leave the yarn in the forward and knit the next stitch, or it'll tell you to do a yarn over or yarn forward. So now you know how to do either one of those.